What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into the SFS channel. In this video, I'll be breaking down some of my top early waiver wire pickups for week 5 fantasy football action. We had a ballin' Sunday slate of games here. Lots of fun, but we had some injuries. We had some mishaps here. And of course, that leaves the opportunity for more players to make impacts on our lineups and on our rosters here, of course. And these are the names, the top 10 of them to be exact, that we're going to be taking a look at in today's video. So if you haven't done so already, what the heck are you doing? Drop down, smash that subscribe button, and turn the bell on so you're never late for a new episode. I'm posting more than one piece of fantasy football content here on YouTube, just YouTube, every single day of the week, in addition to other content on other platforms like TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. So go check all that stuff out. Everything Sizzle Fantasy Sports can be found in the description of today's video. So that was a lot of yapping. Let's jump into the video. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Can I get a B-Rob? I've been waiting for this moment all summer, all fall here. The moment is finally upon us. Brian Robinson Jr. I have been so hyped to talk about him finally this year in 2022. B-Rob is owned in 54% of Yahoo Fantasy Football leagues right now. I've adjusted my analysis from ESPN because what I found is that their rostership is quite a bit lower than Yahoo's. I think that's just due to having significantly more fantasy leagues on their platform, potentially smaller sized league formats. So I think this information, or at least that analytic, is a bit more helpful to those of you that play in some deeper and more competitive leagues. So Brian Robinson, 54% rostership in Yahoo Fantasy Football, and is expected to be activated by the Washington Commanders here ahead of week 5. Now, I'll say this right out of the gun here. I don't know if Brian Robinson gets off to this hot start. You're looking at a guy potentially entering in a running back by committee style offense. But what you do have here is a player that could take off and totally take over the lead job for this team. Antonio Gibson, plain and simple, has not been nearly enough since week 1 to maintain a concrete, solidified workhorse running back 1 for this offense. We all know J.D. McKissic plays his role. We all know that Antonio Gibson is capable, but more likely to be an RB2, even when having all of those rushing touches in this offense. Robinson brings a size and level of physicality to this team that I think is very unique. I think in terms of just premium goal line opportunities, B-Rob's going to give you some really good opportunities in that area of the field, third and short work as well. And he is a phenomenal pass protector. That gives the opportunity for Carson Wentz, who's getting killed in the backfield for the Commanders, taking sacks left and right. I mean, you literally think that this man is just on the ground every single play of the game based off of how bad he gets under pressure and just in terms of the opposing pass rush eating him alive every single week. B-Rob can be a strong force to help pick up some of those blitzes. And honestly, teams really don't have to blitz that much right now because he's getting killed regardless. So Brian Robinson, for me, a super valuable running back add here for the rest of this season. Could be an appreciating asset as the year continues to progress here. Again, don't expect Robinson to necessarily take off fast. He could do so. I'm going to give him some patience here, but definitely a bench stash for me. And a guy who, with seeing Gibson's snap count percentage dip here, I'm heavily interested in for leagues. Nyheim Hines, this is another really interesting one. He is rostered in 62% of leagues. Now, I do recommend, and obviously I have no control over this, it's a very small percentage of the fantasy football players out there watching my videos, of course. I appreciate all of you guys watching today. But he's owned in 62% of Yahoo Fantasy leagues. This needs to be about 80, 85, maybe even 90% by the end of this week, depending on the news we get on Jonathan Taylor, who suffered a rolled ankle. Of course, the reason this is more pressing, it's not a guarantee that he misses this week's game, but they do play on Thursday night against the Denver Broncos, who just let an absolute clinic get rolled all over them by Josh Jacobs and the Las Vegas Raiders offensive line. So for Hines, it's potentially a lead back role for this team. He's not a traditional workhorse, though. This is a guy who is more to be a scat back and receiving specialist out of the backfield who can be efficient on the ground, but I wouldn't expect more than 10, 11, 12 rushing attempts. Expect that damage to be done in the screen game or even splitting him out wide in the slot, using him in unique ways and as a flanking asset out of the backfield in the receiving game. So still some opportunity here for JT owners. Get on this while you can. You probably lost this week with your star player scoring less than 5 points in half PPR scoring. So Nyheim Hines Hines pounce on this opportunity. Raheem Mostert, another running back for this week here, rostered in 50% of Yahoo Fantasy formats. My natural instinct here is to say ESPN. I almost did that again there, but 50% leagues. So he's available in half of your fantasy football leagues out there. 15 rushing attempts for 69 yards this week. Tacked on another 12 yards for 81 total scrimmage yards on 2 receptions. I don't love that Raheem Mostert is a factor on special teams for this Dolphins offense here. I don't love the fact that Chase Edmonds, of course, it is somewhat of a running back by committee style system, or at least a split backfield at minimum. It isn't awesome, but what you're getting here is 2 backs who have fantasy relevance in their own spaces. That's worth rostership, especially if you own Chase Edmonds. But even if you're thin at the position, Raheem Mostert is incredibly explosive, could rip a big run here, had a nice rushing average, over 4 yards per carry, again, 69 yards on the ground, and has had double-digit carries in 2 games. Now, the touchdowns surprisingly have bounced the direction of Chase Edmonds. He's got 3 total of them on the season, but Mostert could start to see that trend change a little bit here with just slight alterations in thought process from this coaching staff. So this team could see a more heavy run style approach if Tua is to miss time here. Of course, he had the scary head injury in last Thursday's game against the Cincinnati Bengals. That was a really, really scary thing to watch. But if this team starts running the ball more with Teddy Bridgewater, it's really not that big of a drop off in quarterback play. But things to be thinking about here approaching this week. Tyler Allgeier, another running back I'm looking to add for this week. We got some really interesting numbers out of that Falcons game. Now, the key here, 16% rostership on Yahoo Fantasy for Tyler Allgeier, is that CPAT, Cordero Patterson, was questionable entering this contest with a knee injury, again, entering week 4 where they took on the Cleveland Browns. CPAT did get in the end zone, but why this is key is because we saw 2 other running backs heavily factored in here, and I think it's because of that questionable designation, as they didn't want to put too much stress on the CPAT tires here and wear that tread super thin, potentially risking a heavier injury issue to be at play here in the coming weeks. So you saw 10 rushes for 84 yards, averaging 8.4 yards per carry here for Allgeier this past week. Of course, the rookie running back out of BYU, a really great physical player here. I shouldn't say great, he's not a great player at this point in time, but he is a really nice prospect coming out of BYU, of course, making his impact felt in this game. Hasn't been super involved consistently so far this season, and we did also see Caleb Huntley, so if you prefer him, he had 10 rushes for 56 yards, 5.6 yards a crack, and a touchdown this week. So 2 solid options behind Cordero Patterson. Personally, I would prefer Tyler Allgeier here. I just think that with the recency of draft capital investment, the fact that he does seem to be the more consistent RB2 for this team, if you're rostering CPAT, I think it's worth your while here to roster Allgeier in deeper formats. We're talking 12-man plus leagues, or even 14-plus man leagues with deep bench spaces. Something that could be worth your while. I'm not the biggest advocate on running back handcuffs, but he does seem like a capable player should something happen to Cordero here. Mike Boone, literally rostered in a fat goose egg of the percentage on Yahoo Fantasy. Now, I'm sure there's a team, a league that has him on a team here, but overall, the piece of the pie is so small, it's less than 1%, so it must be less than 0.5% as well if they didn't even round up. So Mike Boone here, someone that I am very interested in, again, in super, super deep formats. This is not a waiver wire ad for 8, 10, really most 12-man leagues as well. But just like Nyheim Hines, they're actually taking on the Indianapolis Colts on Thursday Night Football. Boone was on the field a lot. I don't have official snap count percentage numbers for you, but after Javonte Williams suffered what seems to be a very unfortunate knee issue where he was immediately ruled out, he was seen on crutches after the game, was getting an MRI for the Broncos on Monday morning when you're seeing this episode. Maybe it's out before you even see this episode, but the key function here for Mike Boone is the fact that he could see some of that split backfield work with Melvin Gordon here. Now, I personally think that this coaching staff is getting a bit fed up with Melvin. The issue with Melvin to this point here, I apologize, my notes just bumped the mic there. The issue with Melvin has been fumbles. That is super frustrating for any football coach at any level. Mike Boone is easily positioned to get more reps because of Melvin Gordon's struggles in this area. This team has played 4 games so far this season. Melvin Gordon has put the ball on the dirt 4 times. So, again, there is nothing that'll drive a coach more crazy than careless fumbles and losing the football. Both Melvin and DeVante have had some struggles early in this season with that. In turnovers and losing possessions for this Broncos team has been killer. This is the team that potentially could have had a way better shot to win had had Melvin not coughed up a fumble 6 to the other team's defense, that being the Las Vegas Raiders. So even though Mike Boone had just 29 scrimmage yards in this game, even though he wasn't a super productive function in his opportunities for this contest, I think it is a very intriguing opportunity. Again, in those deeper leagues, if you need to start, your starters in your lineup for that sake are injured and banged up, this is an option you could approach here. And then finally, Latavius Murray, rostered in 1% of fantasy leagues, back with the Saints this season after a short hiatus in Baltimore last year. Murray, in this game, and his fantasy viability here is really limited to the status of Alvin Kamara. If AK is going to be out there, Latavius Murray is probably not someone that's going to have rostership value or even handcuff value here. We'll see. Really what happened in this game is Mark Ingram went to the medical tent. Before that point in time, Murray wasn't really too big of a factor here, and once Ingram went to the tent with Alvin Kamara out with his rib injury, Murray went absolutely crazy. So we had AK as a starter early in the week as a must-start running back after struggling here. It looks like he would have done quite well because Latavius Murray absolutely balled out, averaged over 5 yards per carry, 11 rushes for 57 yards, and a touchdown. Again, if AK's not out, not so great here, but with how well Latavius did, he seems, obviously he doesn't seem, he is the bigger back. He seems to be the better goal line option for this team, and that gives him value in his own right here. So again, if he's getting those goal line nods without Alvin Kamara in future weeks for a guy who seemed to get more and more nicked as his career progresses here, he's really struggled. Had knee issues last year, the ribs this season. It all seems to be kind of a disastrous blend for Alvin, and I hope he doesn't miss time. I don't want to see him miss another game this year because he's a super fun player to watch, but always at least considering this here. Into the wide receivers now. Romeo Doubs at 69% rostership. I have to touch on him here because he is balling out right now. He could have had an even better fantasy week. He's owned in 69%. That's a nice number. 69% of Yahoo fantasy leagues. If you guys know, you know. I'm sure there's probably no one that doesn't know, but all right, well, let's move on. All right, Romeo Doubs here. I'm feeling you guys today. I'm having a great Sunday. I'm really enjoying myself, and hope you guys are enjoying yourself too. I say Sunday because I'm recording this late Sunday night after Sunday Night Football. But here we go. Moving into this next position now, the wide receivers. I apologize for that little off-road that we went on there, but Romeo Doubs looks like he's Dobbs. I'm sorry, I did it again. Those of you watching, I know someone's typing right now. I'm literally a Green Bay Packer fan, and I can't stop saying Doubs. It is Dobbs, Romeo Doubs. That's just, I'm sorry. I apologize. I did it again. Can't break the habit. Dropped potentially a game-winning touchdown pass this week. Could have been a 40-plus yarder, I believe. Would have put his fantasy totals through the 20-point threshold. He ran a fantastic route on one of the best defensive backs, most underrated defensive backs in the league this year, Jonathan Jones, the CB1 right now for the New England Patriots secondary. Now, had he not dropped that pass, this game wouldn't have went to overtime. He wouldn't have had the few extra receptions he had in OT on quick little RPO smoke routes. Basically, literally snap, turn, catch, run with cornerbacks playing soft coverage, but he made the most of it. Caught 6 of his 8 targets. Could have had 7 of 8, or really not 7 of 8. He would have, again, had fewer targets, not going to OT, but could have had 2 touchdowns. He does have a fumble problem. I will say that. I've watched him in back-to-back weeks cough up the ball this week. He lost the fumble last week. He's able to get back on top of it after a quick strike on a post pattern against the Buccaneers. So really liking what I'm seeing now. Rodgers seems to trust him. He seems to want to go to the football or go to him with the football in big spots. So Romeo Doubs here as our first must-add wide receiver. Michael Gallup diving into the Dallas Cowboys, 41% rostership here in his first game back from the ACL. There's really not too much to talk about here. Just 2 catches on 3 targets, 24 yards and a touchdown, but he was jacked to be out there. The snap count percentage is going to continue to go up as he gets healthier, and this offense is going to take all the playmakers it can get. A perimeter weapon like Gallup, an X receiver, a true X wide receiver who can line up, stretch the field vertically, stop on a dime, run some really good routes, work the middle of the field as well. Cooper Rush, as long as he's in the lineup, will like Michael Gallup here. We know Dak Prescott is going to like Michael Gallup. If he scored a touchdown on 2 or 1 of his 3 targets here, obviously, Cooper Rush is just kind of a gunslinger at this point. What is he now? 4-0 in starts in his career. So really, interesting dynamic going on right now in Dallas. But the moral of the story, should get better potentially with Dak Prescott entering into things here in the what seems to be very near future. And then you've got, of course, the snap count percentage going up, the fact that he could be a weekly flex play. Lots of good stuff to have here with Michael Gallup. George Pickens, 39% rostership. George Pickens, not coincidentally, I should say, it is no coincidence that George Pickens did what he did in this week's game. 39% rostership again here in what was potentially a breakout game for Pickens. Now, I'm expecting him to go a bit cold this week against Buffalo, a very buttoned-up group on the back end of this defense. However, what you've got here is Kenny Pickett entering into things. And again, this is why it is not a coincidence for me that George Pickens had this 6-catch on 8-target, 102-yard game, had 1 reception pre-Kenny Pickett entering the lineup. He was the catalyst. Kenny Pickett was the difference maker, airing the football out, having greater accuracy downfield, and being more dependable for this team. Now, again, they play Buffalo in Week 5. Not a matchup I love too much there, but going forward, this type of involvement in the offense could rise. Maybe the talent outweighs the situation in next week's matchup. You've got a 6'3", 200-pound monster that is athletic, speedy, wins contested catches, has arguably still the catch of the year to this point, and does very, very impressive things. So as the year continues to unfold here, if Kenny Pickett continues to stay healthy and doing the things he's doing through the air, I'm very optimistic on George Pickens' outlook. I would add him as a bench stash at all costs in 10-plus man league formats. And DeVante Parker here, 28% rostership right now. Not a super big week to talk about, but he did go 5 for 156 in Week 3 against Baltimore. That is worth noting. Now, that was with Jacoby Myers off the field, who I argue is their wide receiver 1 in terms of volume, is definitely their wide receiver 1. This week went just 2 for 2, 2 receptions on 2 targets for 24 yards and a touchdown, but this was brought with Brian Hoyer and Bailey Zappi. So Mac Jones back in the lineup is clearly a better situation. Of course, he had the high ankle sprain late in the game against Baltimore in Week 3. Week 4, Parker comes out here and produces. So I'm not starting DeVante Parker with Jacoby Myers in the lineup with these subpar quarterbacks playing. Zappi did do very well against the Packers, almost upset them, took them to overtime, and was the first rookie quarterback to score a passing touchdown this season. Very, very odd. If you placed money on that, betting in a sports book somewhere, I'm sorry, you probably lost some money or won really big on Bailey Zappi. So if somehow that was you, let me know how much cash you won in the comment section below. But that's going to be a little tidbit. I bet someone just puts like, hey, I won $6 million down there. So DeVante Parker, though, besides the point, available in almost 3/4 of the leagues out there. He is the X receiver for this Pats team. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean the wide receiver 1, because I think Jacoby Myers will out-target him basically every week they're out there together. But in these games without him, he's still producing even with suboptimal quarterback play. So all things to keep your eye on. Those were 10 players here for Week 5 fantasy football to go out and target. Do so. Let me know if you got questions, your particular waiver wire situations, who you should add, who you should drop, all that good stuff. And even if you want to look ahead to some matchups and whatnot for this week, I'm happy to chime in and give my 2 cents on that. So I appreciate the heck out of all you guys for stopping on in today's episode. Again, if you enjoyed, smash that like button, subscribe if you're new around here. Always trying to grow the SFS community, and check out our Discord server in the description of today's episode. There's an invite link down there. You do have to wait for me to assign you a role in that Discord server before you can chat or see others' messages, but I get in there as quick as possible. I'm constantly looking at my phone, obviously for fantasy football news, Twitter, all that great stuff. So I'll get you in there and hooked up with your access as quick as I can, but give me some patience. It might take me an hour or two to get that set up for you. I wish I should look into automating that system, but besides the point, check out our other platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, social medias across the board here, and I will see you in our other videos today. We've got lessons learned from Week 4 up on the channel now, or maybe an hour from now when I post this video. We'll see. It's going to be live, though, so turn the bell on so you're notified whenever it comes out, and I'll see you there. Peace out.